I want you to imagine a world where your patients actually wanted to come back. They did their exercises and they come back when and however often you needed them to for maximum benefit. How much better would your working life be? But how much would your patients benefit? I'll field this one. It's a lot. This is what we're going to talk about today. How to get your patients to want to come back. Okay, question. Have a think. What percentage of patients that you need to come back actually rebook after their first session? Okay, got your answer? Was it higher or lower than 80%? 80% seems to be the average for the therapists that I've worked with. It's pretty good, but it still means that you're missing out on 20%. With real focus, therapists have been able to increase from 60, 70 or 80% up to 95 or 98%. Anyone that claims 100% is lying, as some people were never going to come back. But think what difference that extra 15 to 18% would make to you. And actually, once someone has come a second time, they're much more likely to come to see you over and over again. Patient retention is a huge topic. In fact, I run an 8-hour online course on that topic, but we're going to talk about the number one key to retention in this session. Before I go on any further, some people equate retention to over-treating. That is not what I'm talking about here. Over-treating is unethical and awful for your reputation. What I'm talking about is retaining the patients for as long as they need to keep coming. So a little about me. I've been a physio for 14 years and I developed a special interest in non-clinical skills when I realised that the patients that I liked and got on with got better results than the patients that I didn't click with quite as much. Since then, I've learned about sales and marketing, customer services, motivational interviewing, psychology and personal development and applied lessons to therapy businesses. I've worked with hundreds of therapists, some of whom have doubled their income in a matter of months. So, before I talk about the key aspect of retention, I want to talk about stories. I love stories, and they can teach us a lot and help us be better therapists, and they can help us with our retention. Here's a brain teaser for you. What do Dumbledore from Harry Potter, Haymitch from The Hunger Games, and Bing Bong from Inside Out have in common? And what do they have to do with building a therapy business? Any ideas? The answer is the relationship they have with the main character or the hero. They act as a guide to the hero. They help them reach a very specific and emotive goal. More on that in a moment, but whilst we're talking about heroes, I want to make something clear. Our patients are the heroes of their stories. Too many therapists try to play the hero, but we can't. Our patients don't need another hero. They need and want a guide. Can you imagine Dumbledore acting like the hero and doing everything to defeat Voldemort? The story would be ruined, and Harry Potter would have lost all interest in saving the wizarding world. Our patients aren't looking for another hero. They want a guide to reach their own goal. And this is the absolute key to retention, your ability to set engaging goals. So as soon as I speak about goals, therapists immediately think about SMART goals, because we've all been taught that that is what we have to use. The problem is, has anyone ever actually been excited about specific things? How about measurable things? Or time-based? It's pretty hard to get too excited about them. So what makes a great story, and therefore, what makes a great goal? As most of us know, Harry Potter had to defeat Voldemort with the help of Dumbledore. Katniss had to stay alive with the help of Haymitch. And Joy had to make it back to HQ with the help of Bing Bong. What kept us gripped and made them want to achieve their goal? Time for another question. What is your favourite goal you have ever worked on with a patient? Pause this now and take a moment to have a think. Really think hard about that favourite goal The patient that you felt like you'd really achieved something when you finally reached that last session. Once you have that, start the video again and we'll carry on. Okay, I'll share mine. In short, it was to help a recently widowed lady to see her friends. Initially, when I asked about what she wanted to achieve, she said she wanted to get rid of the headaches. How common is that goal? However, with further questioning, it turned out that the headaches lasted for days at a time, and it meant she couldn't drive. She told me that they had moved about 6 months ago as her husband was very unwell, and so they'd moved closer to his family. Sadly, when he died, they no longer really wanted to have much to do with her, and this meant that unless she drove, she couldn't see her friends, and so she felt lonely and socially excluded. So what did your goal and my goal have in common? Hopefully, you noticed that they were both very emotive and very personal. The more emotive and passionate you can make your patient goals, the more engaged your patient will be. That's it. It's that simple. And if your patient is engaged, retention becomes simple too. So what should we use instead of uninspiring SMART goals? I'd like to suggest something a little more engaging. Piper goals. Piper stands for passionate, inspiring, personal, emotive, and realistic. If you think about your favourite films, these words would usually fit in with the goals of the hero, and I would suggest are a major reason for them wanting to see out their story. So, have you ever used reduce pain as a goal? How about regain normal function, or improve strength, or a really common one, return to running? We have to move past these types of goals. The problem is that they're all quite passive. Reduce pain is a classic. A patient comes to you because they can't reduce their pain, and they come in and you come up with reduce pain as a goal. That means that they have effectively said, here you go, I can't solve this, you do it. From that point on, it will be very difficult to engage that patient. Instead, we need to dig deeper. We need to ask, so what? I don't mean literally. I mean that we have to find out why the pain is so important to them. Why must we help them? So how do we do this? Start by setting up the fact that you're going to be asking some slightly unusual questions. I start my subjective assessment with, I'll be asking lots of questions about your pain, but I'll also be asking some questions that may seem a little bit odd, so I can find out exactly what the pain means to you and understand how it's affecting you. Please just do your best to answer them. Then, I will ask one of a few questions to open up the conversation when I want to find out exactly what their goal is. Something along the lines of, what would be the best outcome of treatment for you? Then ask why that's important to them, and so on. Basically, keep thinking to yourself, so what? For example, with my lady with the headaches, the conversation went something along these lines. What would be the best outcome of treatment for you? To get rid of my headache, she said. Okay, headaches are horrible, but why are they so important to you? I said. Effectively, I was asking, so what? She said, well, I can't drive when I have headaches. And I said, okay, driving is really important for a lot of people. Why is it so important for you? Again, basically asking, so what? She said, well, when I can't drive, I can't see my friends. Obviously, seeing friends is really important, but why was it so vital for her? Again, I asked, basically, so what? And she explained that she's lonely without them. It's been very hard since her husband died, and that she felt depressed and sad when she couldn't see her friends. Now that's a Piper goal. I was helping her see her friends. I wasn't helping get rid of her headache. I was helping her not feel lonely, not feel depressed. Can you see how much more powerful that is than simply reduce headaches as a goal? So, here are my favourite questions for for getting the patient to start talking about how the pain is affecting them. Number 1, how does the pain make you feel? Secondly, why is it so important for you to change that in relation to something that pain is limiting? And lastly, my absolute favourite, if I got rid of your pain right now, how would your life be better? Ask open questions and then really listen. Therapists are awful for asking a question and then barely listening to the answer. They're simply thinking of the next question. If you ask an open question, listen to the answer. They will tell you a lot. It takes practice, but it doesn't have to take any longer than your normal assessment would. Having a clear goal is the most important factor in getting a patient on board with their treatment. The goal motivates the patient and you as the therapist and gives you a purpose. Once you have a great goal, everything links to that. The reason for a treatment, for an exercise, and for the number of sessions that are needed. Everything. So, suddenly, you're not just asking the patient to come back, you're really acting as their guide in their story, giving them a plan and helping them reach their Piper goal. Okay, so back to stories. Imagine a story where the hero wanted to reduce their pain. Would you want to watch that? No, it would be a bit dull. How about a story where the hero wanted to reduce their pain so that they could run a marathon? Maybe a bit more interesting, I suppose, but probably still wouldn't bother. Okay, how about a film where someone in pain wants to run a marathon because running is the way that they've found to manage their depression? He's going to raise money for a charity that helped him get back on his feet after he tried to kill himself. Now that's a story I would want to be involved in. I'd love to be his guide. Do the same for each of your patients. Find an amazing goal, one that would make a brilliant story, a brilliant film, and be their guide. If you do that, retention becomes simple. I worked with a therapist who made this one change recently, and she started making Piper goals with her patients. Her list doubled within 2 months. It may seem incredibly simple, and I suppose it is really, but it works. Bringing in great goals and being their guide for your patients makes a massive difference. Going back to the idea of stories, you're simply trying to make your patient want to come back for the next chapter or the next scene in their particular story. Always try and put yourself in their shoes. Would you want to come back? Would you see value in what you're providing? And would you see yourself as a guide in the story? Make sure you're creating a goal and give them a plan, and then single-mindedly work towards it. Write it down whilst the patient is still with you. It almost acts like a contract. You're agreeing on a goal, and you're agreeing to work together on it. As I said, this does take practice. It's a change of mindset for most therapists. We're not used to delving this deeply into how people are feeling. After all, we're not psychologists. But by asking a few simple questions and really trying to get to grips with why this patient has come to see you, which they may not even realize themselves until they start talking, is vital for getting them on board and engaged in what you do. Once you have a goal and you've written it down, come up with a basic plan. Roughly how many sessions is it going to take, and roughly how long is it going to take for them to reach their goal? Most people are like me, I think. Before a film, I tend to have a look at how long it is. Something like Titanic is so long, I probably would never even start it because I'd fear it would never finish. Patients are much the same. They need to know that there's a time scale for their goal. Roughly when should they expect to achieve it? No one's going to embark on any kind of activity or journey if there's no end in sight. So, you've got a goal and you've got a plan. What's next? Simple. The patient just has to agree to follow you on that plan. If you've been engaging enough and really drawn out a Piper goal and explained exactly how you can help someone, then they will join you on that journey. You will be part of their story as a guide. and they will thank you for it one day. Okay, so a quick recap for boosting retention. Number 1, create a Piper goal. It takes practice, but keep working on it. It will really pay off. Number 2, then link everything to that goal to create a purpose. If you can't link something back to that goal, you shouldn't be doing it. You should be able to explain how everything you're doing or recommending moves that patient one step closer to their goal. You have to make that clear and really spell it out to them, because often patients just won't see it. Okay, thirdly, make sure you see huge value in your role as the guide. Therapists are awful at undervaluing what we do, but we actually change people's lives. We really do play a vital role in patient stories, but often, because of a poor goal, what we see ourselves as doing is reducing pain, or increasing a range of movement, or increasing strength. That, in reality, is not what we are doing. I've spoken to so many therapists about how much of a difference they make to their patients' lives every day. If you're not sure, speak to some of your patients. Ask them what difference your therapy has made to them. They will tell you. And please use that as a boost of your ego and realize just how important you are to them. Please don't misunderstand when I say that you can't be the hero. It does not mean that you're not important. Harry Potter would not have been anywhere near as engaging or exciting without Dumbledore. Bing Bong made a massive difference to the story in Inside Out. Guides are still hugely important. They just can't be the hero. Lastly, discuss progress in terms of their Piper goal, not pain. For example, at the start of the session, ask whether they've managed to see their friends or not, or if they've raised any more money for their charity. It changes the focus onto the goal and, most importantly, away from the very passive reduce pain. Great goals inspire you, and that comes across to the patient. We all know how exhausting it can be seeing patient after patient in a day. The difficulty is lots of therapists don't help themselves with this. If you have the same goal for every patient, reduce pain, then the day becomes monotonous. But if every half an hour, or however long your sessions are, your goal and your purpose changes because the patient has a different goal and you're part of a different story, then it becomes very exciting. All day, every day, you're a film star. Every half an hour, you get to play a different role. You get to be a guide to a different person in their story along their journey to a very, very special goal. If you use their goal as inspiration, it will come across to their patient. They will react differently to you, and your day will fly by. So, there we have it. The power of goals and stories on patient retention. If you have any questions at all, please email me on info@triadhealth.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you, even if it's just for a chat, or to share some of the amazing goals that you're working on with your patients. Thank you.